Welcome back to the ETF Inspector Vacation Edition. It's Monday, August 11th, a little after 7 o'clock at night. We are in between water park all day and maybe going back out for some putt-putt golf or the boardwalk tonight, but trying to get some video in for our YieldMax weekly paying funds, ULTY, the Ultra Option Income Strategy Fund, and LFGY, the Crypto Industry and Tech Portfolio Option Income ETF. I'm going to try to do this a little quicker than usual, so I'm going to kind of go through numbers a lot faster than I normally do, maybe not hit on every little detail. But next week we'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming. I'm also on X at ETF_Inspector1. Give you a heads up when videos are coming out. Not really a great heads up on the first video today, premiering now, but sorry. Just trying to get things put out, get dinner, get showers, and get back out the door. All right, before I get started, as always, this is kind of most important to me, shout outs and thank yous. So I had two from yesterday's week look ahead and distribution guesstimate video. Darren had a $5 super thanks. Darren Winslow. Darren, this is, I think, 4 or 5, maybe even more in a row every couple of days. So big supporter of the channel. Thank you so much, Darren, for all the help. Comments a lot too. Helps with the algorithm. Helps YouTube to know that people are watching the videos. And then Geezer John also, big thank you. $10 super thanks. So thank you, Geezer John, both of you. Very much appreciated. Helped buy a hot dog at the water park today. All right, let's get into it. Both ULTY and LFGY were up today. They were actually doing better throughout the day and kind of tailed off at the end. As you saw on the thumbnail, it was more green than red, and we've got some big movers to talk about. So LFGY, similar, right? Could have been a great day. Kind of tailed off. A lot of the underlyings did as well. So we'll look in and see what happened, and get an idea for trades and holdings. So I tried to start setting up something a little different than I usually do, and it was taking so long to set it up, and then numbers weren't working, and I just said I'll just do my normal thing and talk a little faster and explain a little less. So right off the bat, ULTY trades, we only had 3 stock trades, and 2 of them were the same. Bought more of Affirm Holdings. We just got into them end of last week. So we bought some more shares, $16.5 million worth. And then we sold some BMNR, Bitmine Immersion Technologies. Believe it or not, $81 million worth. It was not a complete sellout, and a lot of this has got to do with making up for some of the money it cost closing some trades out. So Affirm right off the bat, right? We bought new shares, so we sold new calls and bought new puts to go along with our collar strategy that we use in this fund. That brought in $123,000. And I hope you're sitting down. Bitmine Immersion. So we closed. All right, I'm not even going to go into a lot of details, right? Closing and reselling, because the stock went up so much. That cost us almost $42 million on that one. So I'm going to say that's got a lot to do with why we sold, and because the stock's up so much since we bought it. So we are taking some profits, I guess. Now, I've had a lot of comments, right? If you're not including the profits on the sale of the stocks themselves, then your math is wrong. I understand that, right? Nobody's math is going to be perfect other than YieldMax's, because they know what the IV is at the time of the sale. They've got all their records, right? We've got what they give us, and we do the best we can. So if I'm not going to count buying of stocks against them as losses, then I can't count selling of stocks as positive. And then obviously, yeah, if I have all the information, great. So then but I can't keep and track all that for some and not for all, because there's probably 15 of the stocks that were in here before I started covering them. So we just stick to options trading and losses, options trading profit and losses. in the calculations. It's not perfect. That's why I call it a guesstimate. All right, Webull closing and rolling still staying within the same week. So the Bitmine immersion, they were already rolling out to the following week just to try and make up and get a little extra premium. I believe they're going to be the only ones. Everything else is staying within the same week. In Webull's case, again, rolling up because the stock went up, cost us 3.6 million. Coinbase, same thing, rolled up. So Coin getting back some of the recent losses, but each time we are also raising up our puts as well. So we're locking in that higher value. Coinbase cost us 7.7 million on that roll. Galaxy, now you'll see it's not orange because it wasn't a complete. Let me make sure I'm remembering the right one. Yeah, see, there's 31,000 at that 28 and a half. We closed 15,000, so it's not a complete closeout and roll. That's why it doesn't come in orange. So just a portion, close to half, cost us 2.7 million. Again, kept it within the same week, rolled it up by, what's that, $30? Or no, $3. That's $28.50 to $31.50. IonQ, another stock that took off today, closing out 42, selling 48s, keeping it within the same week, sliding our puts up as well. Cost us 7.7 million. That's two out of three in a row that were 7.7 million. Nebius Group went up as well, closing the 70s, opening 79s in the same week. Cost us 4 million. Rigetti, so we didn't close out. This one's a little bit different, so I will explain it. So all we did was adjusted. Don't look at the highlight right now. Adjusted our puts. All right, so we sold our 13s and 1350s and moved them up to 1450s. So we locked in a higher value for the underlying in the event that it goes back down. But then we also started a little bit different strategy than usual. We bought calls at 18 for this week. So that's going to be more than half of the $4.1 million spent. So it would have been, less than half of that price just to lock in our higher put price. But they made a bet that the stock is going to keep going. So they bought calls at 18. Now this is a little strange to have sold calls at 16 and 1650 and purchased calls at 18. So it's not. So those bought calls are not necessarily a bet that it'll go up. They are more protection against how much we're going to have to spend to close these out in the event it does run past them. That's going to be my take on it anyway. New Scale Power, SMR. We didn't adjust the puts, just calls, buying the 44s, selling 4250s, so it dropped, and we collected 196,000 more premium. U is Unity Software, just adjusting the puts, not the calls. Cost us 624,000, so we locked in a higher price on those. And then finally, Upstart, closing out 73s and 78s and selling 68s and 71s because the price dropped. $1.6 million credit. So, big old trading loss on the day. Again, this only counts the options, not the regular stocks. $70 million to the negative. Share values increased. You see it right there, 38 million. Let's take a look at how and why. I'll try to get through nice and quick. Family's waiting. Okay, so if you're new here, this isn't how I normally run through them. I'm just trying to get through this quick. Affirm Holdings was up today, still out of the money by 6% on the calls that are sold. Applied Materials down slightly, still 3% out of the money on their calls. AppLovin was up over 2%. They've got some in the money and others that are just out of the money by less than 1%. AST Space Mobile, all calls are still well out of the money, 8 to 12% after today's decrease. BitMine immersion. Here's one that was a little bit odd. If you take a look, this is not me typing in the price. That is Excel registering the price that with whatever they use. 59.18 plus 15%. But then if you take a look on this the finance app that comes preloaded on the computer, it says 58.98, 14.68%. So I don't know which one's right. I got a feeling it's this one, but either way, somewhere in the 14 to 15% increase range. They already had some in the money that went deeper in the money. The 45s, 55s went in the money when they were looking good. 60s are still out of the money. Everything kind of got closed and rolled with the exception of the out of the money 60s. $25 million increase in value off of that big day on BitMine. Webull down less than 1%. Not sure why they chose to close and roll the closest to the money options. Usually they would do the opposite, the furthest out of the money, but they left their 7.5% and 14% out of the money calls in play. Coinbase was up at almost 3%. They rolled the positions that went in the money. They've got others 320 that are slightly out of the money and 255s that are 20% out of the money. Galaxy Digital up about 2.5%, still out of the money but just barely. 0.07 and 1.8%. Robinhood down less than 1%, out of the money, but close. 2 and 3.8% out of the money. IonQ up almost 7.5%. Yeah, I sold puts on them on Friday for collecting $109, and I could have closed them out for $19 today. Unfortunately, I didn't get out of the water park till after 4, so I didn't make any trades. They closed their deeper in the money options. They still have the 43.5s, 43.50s in play, even though they're in the money by 3.2%. Mara Holdings up 1.85%, still out of the money on both 16s and 1650s, 2 and 5%. MicroStrategy was up, broke back into the 400s, still out of the money by 3.6 and 4.3%. Nebius Group went into the money and rolled on their 70s after today's 2.1% increase. 71s are still in play, 1% out of the money. Oklo down 4.3%. Everything's looking fairly safe right now on Oklo. 80s, 83s, and 85s are 11 to almost 18% out of the money. We must not have 5%. Surprised it didn't hurt more than 6 million. Palantir down 2.29%. We've got 182.50s in the money by 0.1%, and then 187.50s and 192.50s, 2 and 5% out of the money. Reddit up about 2.5%, still looking okay. 225s and 227.50s are about 2 and 3% out of the money. Rigetti up 3.5%. No action taken on the calls, even though they're getting close. 0.1 and 3.2% out of the money. They did adjust their puts higher to lock in that higher price. Rocket Lab up about 0.75%. Still 5.5 and 6.6% out of the money on those 47.50s and 48s. SMCI up 1.3%, 6 and 8% out of the money on 48s and 49s. New Scale Power down 3% even, 11 and 12% out of the money on the calls left in play. The ones furthest out, 44s, got rolled to a closer strike price to collect more premium. Unity Software down 0.2%. Only thing they did was adjusted the puts. Did they adjust them up or down? Up. All right, they sold their 28s and bought 31.50s. That's surprising on a down day, but they were pretty far out of the money, so they're just locking in a little bit higher price. And Upstart Holdings, the big loser over here today, down 7.7%. They took the furthest out of the money trades out and rolled them closer to collect more premium. They still have 72's 13.5% out of the money. So all those increases and decreases resulted in an overall increase of $38 million of value. Net assets still over $3 billion. That's why you saw that little $3 billion mark on the thumbnail. 507 million outstanding shares. Well, I'm sure we had more people purchase in today, so we will see tomorrow with the download how many more people bought in, how much more money came into the fund. But that was the NAV before the day started. So obviously, with everything increasing in value, that 3 billion doesn't include the 38 million increase in value or the 40 or 70 million loss in trading. All right. Now, next to LFGY, kind of like the pace we're going at here. I actually can't remember if I colored in I didn't. Biggest winner and biggest loser. We'll do it live. Nice and easy again. LFGY has been my friend lately. Only traded options on Bitmine, Coin, and Ethereum. And that's the Ethereum iShares Trust. Each one was a complete closeout and roll. So Bitmine's closed out their 50s and sold 65s, and then they also bought $70 calls on the top side. They don't do the protective puts over here in LFGY. It's more of just a covered call strategy. That cost 1.1 million. Coinbase closing out their 312.50s and selling 350s, so they're selling a lot further out of the money than ULTY is. That cost us 583,000. Back up just a hair. The closeout and roll on Bitmine Immersion what actually rolled up and out to the 22nd on those. And then ETHA cost us 400,000 on the close of, I believe they're 31s and sold 35s. I don't think they're a $300 stock. Correct. So all in all, those three negatives resulted in a $2 million deficit on the trading profit and loss. It's going to be paired with a $2.6 million increase in overall values. I'm going to take a guess and say that Bitmine Immersion is going to be our biggest winner over here. Quick scroll to see if anything was remotely close to 15%, and it wasn't. Now we'll look for the biggest loser. We got a 3. It's looking like that 3%er is our biggest loser. Who is it? NU Holdings. All right, so Bitmine, big winner again. Fortunately for them, they were a lot further out of the money. Maybe not. No, they didn't have to roll last week because they were so far out of the money. But then today, increasing by 15 basically put them 15% in the money. So closed and rolled those positions. Not a huge position over here. 2% of the holdings. So even going up that much didn't even increase the value by $1 million. BitDeer up 1 3/4%. No action taken. They've got calls sold anywhere from 1.6 to about 9.5% out of the money, expiring this week. CleanSpark down about 2%. Calls are 6 and 11% out of the money. We may end up seeing those get closed out early this week and rolled closer. Coinbase up nearly 3%. They closed and rolled those positions. We'll have new information when the holdings come out tomorrow. Core Scientific up 0.8%. No action taken. 15s are 3% out of the money. Circle Internet Group up 1.3%. Still 5.5% out of the money on those 170s. iShares Ethereum Trust ETF ETHA up 4 3/4. Completely rolled the positions. Galaxy Digital up about 2.5%. 29s are still 1.8% out of the money. GameStop up 0.67%. What's that? 2/3. Still 2.5% out of the money on those 23s. Robinhood Markets up 0.88%. still 5.6 and 10% out of the money on those 120s and 125s. Hut 8 Corp increased by 5.73%, went into the money, but no action was taken. So they're just going to either let time decay kind of run its course to bring the price down, or they're maybe just waiting for a drop, right? I think they do say once the purchased call is worth enough to pay the time value left in the sold call, that's when they choose to close it and roll it out. IBIT was up 2.29%. That brought the value up by almost 450,000. There's no options there. Mara Holdings up 1.85%. Still 2 to 5% out of the money on the sold calls at 16 and 16.50. Then MBTX doesn't have its own gray line because there's no shares. We've got a credit call spread sold at 280, which went into the money today with today's increase to 281. But no action taken. It's only 0.5% in the money. And then they've also got a debit put spread purchasing the 230 for the end of the year. I should mention there's credit call spread is out till September 19th, so still lots of time left on that one. But with it going up, that's going to decrease the value of that 230 put that was purchased. Mercado Libre down 2.6%. Calls sold at 2,400 or 4.7% out of the money. MicroStrategy up 1.3%. 6 and 7% out of the money. If any of you guys have kids or teenagers, they'd be laughing right now. 6, 7. Some of the older people probably have no idea what I'm talking about. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I just know the kids always say 6, 7 and they laugh. NU Holdings, big loser, 3.13% down. 9% out of the money on those 13s expiring Friday. Nvidia down 1/3%. Still 1.5% out of the money on those 185s. Opera up 1/3%, a little more. 9.5% and 25% out of the money. And the nice thing is the much larger position is 25% out of the money. Looking like we got a great chance to win those, but I've been wrong on that before. It seems like no percentage is safe. PayPal Holdings, sorry, down 0.84%, still 2.8% out of the money on those 69s. Riot Platforms up 0.4%, 7.8% out of the money on Friday's 12s. And finally, Block down almost 0.5%, still 6.67% on those 78s. So that's how we came to a $2.6 million increase in value. Again, so since we did a weekend video, we already got the increase or decrease in shares that took place on Friday, so we don't have any new information. Net assets roughly 186 million, outstanding shares 5,175,000. We started the day at a $36.02 NAV for the increase, and we'll get the rest of the information tomorrow. So 30-second recap. ULTY spent $70 million trading today and increased in value by $38 million based off of how the underlyings performed. And LFGY had a deficit of $2 million in their options trading and an increase in value of $2.6 million. 10 more seconds on this 30-second. Reminder, if you didn't see the Sunday video, you're missing it. It was a good one. But IV estimate around 8.6 cents on ULTY. I called it 9.1. We'll see how it goes. And LFGY income estimate was positive, but it was around 20 cents. They're going to pay more than that. IV around 41 cents. I think they're going to pay a little more than that. I said 42.5 cents. So Wednesday we will find out what they're going to pay. Forgot to gray this out. We're done talking about last week. All right, so that's it. That's the video. Appreciate you guys watching. Time to get back to vacation. So before I do, I got a dad joke of the day, and I just want to thank you guys for watching. all the likes, shares, comments, everything, support, suggestions, everything. I appreciate it all. So, dad joke of the day. My book about clocks finally arrived. It's about time. All right. I keep wanting to say enjoy, go back to enjoying your vacation, but that's me. So if you're going back to work, I'm sorry, but good luck trading tomorrow, and I'll catch you in tomorrow's video. Good night.